Go.
All right, Sorel, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for being here on the live studio of the Daily Huddle. And for those of you who connect later, we hope this huddle reaches you with health and love. Sorel, how are you this morning?
I am ready, my friend. Thank you for being my partner in creating this occasion for the world. Uh, Many people who are listening or here in the live audience may not know this. You and I were having a casual conversation right after we decided to quarantine ourselves. And we said, well, gosh, what are we going to do now? And out of that conversation came an idea designed to keep you and I active and contributing and continuing to create with people. And then a whole bunch of other people decided to say, you know what, I want to play that game too. And they became our expert guests. So I'm infinitely grateful for you, infinitely grateful for our expert guests, and infinitely grateful for the people around the world who watch the recordings and get up in the morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, join the Daily Huddle to create a conversation designed to empower business people and professionals and people in life and in business to have what they need to make great decisions and produce great results in life. So I'm grateful that there are no other words for me to say that. Thank you. So would you please introduce our expert guest?
I am honored to introduce our expert guest, particularly because this is one of my favorite human beings in the world. And let me tell you why she is one of our favorite human beings in the world. Our feature speaker today is Miss Corrina Sephora, and she is a world-renowned artist, sculptor, entrepreneur, and mentor for so many folks. Right, Corrina, let me tell you a little bit about Corrina. Corrina opened her studio in Georgia in 1997. Shortly after she completed her bachelor's degree of fine arts in sculpture and metals at Massachusetts College of Art in Boston. When she opened her studio, she was one of the 50 women in America with the studio specializing in sculpture and blacksmith. You know, only 50 women in America. To date, Corrina has artwork in the public collections of Martin Luther King Jr. National Historical Park, the Atlanta Botanical Garden, Atlanta Jewish Academy, formerly known as Greenfield Hebrew Academy, the City of Decatur, the City of Smyrna, the Tuscawilla State Park in Florida, and the Museum of the Contemporary Art of Georgia. Now, I only said a few, but she sent me a list of everywhere in the world, basically. So I just wanted to say that. And, today's question that we're going to be in the inquiry of, I'm really excited about it because it is about the journey of an artist as an entrepreneur in the current economic times, right? Which everyone in some degree is being impacted. But what I like about the question for Corrina is that from the beginning, the statistics were in some degree against her ad, because she shared with me that on the first day of school, they told her only 1% of you will ever make a living doing your passion. And then she not only makes a living, but she also thrives as a sculptor, as an artist. So Corrina, welcome and thank you for being with us at the Daily Huddle.
You're welcome. Thank you, Giovanni, and thank you, Sorel. It's been really great to be here as a guest. It's become part of my structure in this time of quarantine, and all the rest of my regular structures are different. So it's really been a joy to be here to listen to all the guests. And now I'm super honored to be here as one of your guests. So I am going to share with you all through the art of storytelling. I'm going to share with you about dreams, goals, challenges, motivation, determination, mindset, community, action, and legacy. Okay, so that's the areas that I'm going to touch on. And I'm going to do that through the art of storytelling.
Wow. So you use storytelling as an entrepreneur to thrive in your business.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Go ahead. Sorry, I was just present to that. And I loved it. Thank you. Go ahead.
You're welcome. Yeah. So I'll bring you all there with me, okay? So there I am. I am 18 years old. It's a crisp autumn morning, and I'm in Boston, Massachusetts. It's my first day of art school, and I'm in the auditorium with a couple hundred other people. And as Giovanni said so eloquently, they announced 1% of all of you will go on to make a living what you're practicing while you're here in art school. And let me tell you, I was not a trust fund kid, and this really bothered me. I was like, are you serious? It took something to get here. And I had some assistance from my family, but through grants and scholarships and working pretty hard, I stayed for 5 years, and I did a dual major. I studied metalsmithing and sculpture. And I knew I had a lot of really big dreams, right? I wanted to be a world-renowned artist. I had goals. And most importantly, I really wanted to leave a legacy behind. And as our speaker yesterday talked about legacy, that's something that's always been there for me. How do I leave a legacy behind? You know, I looked to all these people growing up. I'd read art history books, I'd go to museums, and you know what? More than anything, I wanted to be someone like that other people got an opportunity to recognize, right? That my life meant something and I left something behind. And as Giovanni mentioned, some of my accolades, right? To date, I have work at the Botanical Gardens in their permanent collection, the Martin Luther King Historic Center, their permanent collection, and I even have collectors such as Jane Fonda and Elton John. And none of this happened overnight, right? It took a lot of hard work. It took years. And I'll tell you, my father used to always tell me, Corrina, you can do whatever you want as long as you put your mind to it. You can do whatever you want. And people may say you can't, society may say you can't, there may be certain roles, and I'm gonna tell you, you can do whatever you want as long as you set your mind to it. So I had that going for me. And right after art school, I moved to Atlanta, Georgia. I had a 1979 F-150, and I could fix the starter in 20 minutes, and I got a lot of opportunities to try. And I worked for 6 different companies over the course of 2 years, and some of those, and never longer than 6 months. I called that my journeyman apprenticeship, which really meant I worked for a lot of people. I gathered skills of what you do with being a metal artist in the world. Now, I also worked for industry, and I was the first and only woman that was ever hired as a welder. They x-rayed everything that we did. And I was confident that I knew how to do what I was doing. Now, I also, as I mentioned, I worked for other people, and one of them would let me use his workshop while I was building up my own empire. I would use his studio at the end of the day, and I started to have my own collectors. And I had one collector, her name was Gladney Cooper. And Gladney would ask me to make one piece, and then she would ask me to make another piece, and midway through the largest piece, I apologized to her that it was taking a little while longer than I would have liked it to. And I said, listen, you know, I work after the day's work, I use, you know, my boss's studio, and it's just taking me a little longer. And she said, you know, you are so talented. You should have your own studio. Why don't you have your own studio? And I whipped out a list of all the tools and equipment that I needed to start my studio. And I left that day with 2 checks. One, the midpoint for the project I was working on, and a no interest loan. Gladney Cooper became my benefactor. She saw that I was motivated. She saw that I knew what I wanted to do, and there was only one thing in the way. And a couple years later, I paid her back in full, and it felt so good. And between the time of that no interest loan, I had built pieces that were so large and had to use cranes to install them in my own studio. So And so I really spent the whole first part of my career really pretty much moving back to that question, right, that Gio brought up, back to only 1% of you will make a living. So I really was attempting to survive, right? Get the equipment that I needed, have new clients, pay all my bills, all of that. I was in survival. And about 8 years ago, I started to surround myself with a new community, with a new thought process, and people that talked about something called possibility. I did the Landmark Forum. And I learned new ways to get through my own mental blocks and imagined barriers that I had for success. And at this time, I also really took on thriving instead of surviving. Like, what would it look like for my life to be someone who thrives as an artist, as opposed to, I did it, I'm one of the 1%. And I was surrounded by these people who were always up to something in their lives, right? Growth and development is what we call it. So shortly after this, I also started a critique group of artists. And so I started surrounding myself with other like-minded people who were up to something in art. And I also grew a team at my studio. So I wasn't doing everything all by myself. And another thing that happened at this time is I had a project that I'd been designing and we'd been talking about, and it was going on for about 3 years. And this was about a $200,000 project. And this came about. And it was the most metal work I'd ever done in one place. I think I created 4 fireplaces, a spiral staircase for a grand stairwell, the front door entrance. And I was so proud of this work. Sconces, it was all, thematically similar. And afterwards, I was a little nervous, but I asked the collector, could I have a party at your house? Why don't we celebrate all of this work? We'll celebrate my work, we'll celebrate the builders, we'll celebrate your new home. And so we had this amazing party. We had it catered, we had a ballet, and I brought other sculptures and other artwork. And then once people see something in their home, oftentimes they can visualize it, right? Because it's right there. And so they bought another piece for me for like $13,000. And simultaneously, I had work in an outdoor exhibition in Chattanooga. And I received a 3-page letter from a perfect stranger. Her name was Madeline. And she sent me photographs, and she would walk in this park and visit this sculpture that I had that was outdoors. And she told me that it became a part of her healing process. She had had all of this loss that year. She lost her son and her husband. And she would walk in this park, and she would go and visit my sculpture every day. And what I got out of this experience was, when I hold myself back from my dreams, from my goals, when I worry, is it going to be good enough? Will I like it? Will I get accepted? All that stuff. And go for it, right? When I put my work out there in the world, it isn't just about me, but it's so much about who gets to interact with my work. Now, I'm an artist, right? But many of you are entrepreneurs or writers, all that kind of thing. So across the board, right? I just got that me holding myself back for whatever concerns I have wasn't going to do what I wanted in life, right? And that it affected other people when my work was out there. Now, the funny thing is, the sculpture was called Where I Have Come From and What Will I Leave Behind? And in creating that sculpture, I was contemplating my own legacy. I was looking at, will people remember me? I've never created a family. I have, it has a net, casting the net, what do I hold on to? What do I leave? It was very much about like, what will be there once I am no longer there? And so to have a letter from a perfect stranger brought about something that I never would have imagined. So that's what I wanted to share with you. And I noticed, Sorrel, in the bio, you shared a little bit about the work that I've done with guns. And so I wanted to just touch on that also. Along with working in my studio, I'm constantly looking out there into the world and what's happening right now. In fact, these paintings behind me are what I've created to cope with what's going on right now. right? When everything seems so strange and so unknown. The night sky is something that's always been unknown. Now we have science and we have predictions, but do we really know about the night sky? And so these paintings have to do with me embracing the unknown, which is really what we're all in right now. Mm. So because you brought up the work in the guns in one of the bios, I wanted to share with you all a little about how that came to be. It all started with the church in Vinings, and they contacted me and they said, we would like you to transform this gun into a garden tool. And I said, okay. and I did it, you know, and then, and at first she brought me a handgun, like a little gun. And then I looked on the internet and I was like, I need a barrel. I need a shotgun, you know? So they got me another gun. And
I need a bigger gun.
I know, I'm like, I need a bigger gun. And it was so great. This little secretary brought me this, and she was so nervous. She had in the trunk of her car, you know? And then I did some more research on the internet and I was like, yeah, I need a barrel, you know? So she brought me 2 more. I said, could you bring me 2? I want to practice, because I was going to do a live presentation at their church. Again, the unknown. And so they did. They brought me 2 shotguns, and I took them apart and I used the barrel and I made this beautiful garden tool. And it has to do with the quote from the Bible where you talk about transforming swords into plowshares, right? Peter, Paul, and Mary had a song about that too, Swords and Plowshares, War No More. And so that happened. I thought, well, I'm glad I did that. And there was an exhibition that was happening of contemporary art. And guess what? It was all responding to guns. And I said to the curators, I said, listen, it's the weirdest thing, but I just transformed a gun yesterday. So then the gallery had me come, bring my forge, and I did a presentation there. And then the Parkland shooting happened. And an Iraq vet contacts me. And he says, listen, I've got this AR-15 and I would like you to destroy it and transform it into something. And I'm like, what? So my irises start blooming, right? Because again, I'm in the unknown. What am I going to do with this tool of mass destruction? And my iris bulbs started blooming, and they were iris bulbs for my mom. This is also jewelry for my mom. And she says, her motto on her business cards was, beauty will save the world. And so I thought, well, I've made flowers out of metal before. Why don't I try it with this AR-15? And so I did. And I did it on camera as well. It was filmed for the AJC, and there's been 2 more films. So there's 3 films that have been made about my work with the guns. I've had multiple exhibitions, and there's a book being written right now. And out of one of those films, Elton John, the other guy that was in the film who also works with guns, is friends with Elton John. And so that's how Elton John ended up buying a piece of my work. Wow. And again, that took me being in the unknown, trying something new, and being open and receptive to what is the community asking. Wow. So my question for all of you is, you know, what is your legacy? What do you want to leave behind?
That's beautiful. Thank you, Corrina. I was so in love with your story. Go ahead, Sarah. Anyway, I have so much to say, Sarah. I have to go.
I know.
I have to. This is so amazing.
Mess it up. Wait 1 minute.
Go ahead, Sarah.
You know, the thing is, Corrina,
yes,
you can speak about your work. I'm so inspired, and there's nothing like seeing it live.
Yes.
Corrina's made fireplace grills and wood holders and fireplace tools for my home. And I wake up every morning. When I walk by, I look at that. So I wanted to give you, each of you, looking a taste of what it's like to be in the presence of Corrina's work. This is Corrina's work.
Oh.
This is what it looks like when, as an artist, as an entrepreneur, as a teacher, as a firefighter, as a nurse, as an engineer, as business consultants, wherever you are in life, as Corrina's work touches the world and touches people in ways unimaginable, my work, your work can too. And Corrina's question, what are you going to leave behind, is inviting us to create masterpieces just like this. Corrina, thank you.
You're welcome.
Gio, I had to share this.
That was so great. Thank you, Sorrel.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing. That is beautiful. I've had a chance to be in Corrina's work almost everywhere I go, and I'm so glad that you shared that picture. Thank you, Sorrel. Corrina, there are so many things you said that were so beautiful. I don't have a question for you, but I just want to recap some of the things that were just mesmerizing for me. And
Okay.
one of the things that there is a transition in every entrepreneur's life, which is going from surviving to thriving.
Yes.
And you pointed to that, and it's a beautiful inquiry. It's a beautiful place to stand on. How do I go from surviving, which is like the motive for most of us, to thriving? And then you pointed to something beautiful, which is connect to a community that is up to something. The community will uplift you, right? To that level of thriving, right? And that transition is scary for most of us, to allow new people into our life. The other thing that I said, that you said, that it was beautiful, and it was kind of poetic. I don't know if it was a poem that you were saying, where in so much unknown going on right now, there is always this guy who has always been unknown to us. And we're okay with. I don't know if it was a poem, but that was beautiful. If that was a poem, you gotta put it there. So thank you so much for giving us all that context for us to swimming for the rest of the day. And I'm gonna open it up for maybe a few of you, maybe some of you have some questions that you would like to ask, and to Corrina, since we have her here with us this morning.
Do you want to call on the people, Gio?
Well, let me see. Anybody raise their hand? Anybody raise your hand?
Hello.
You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
All right, go ahead.
Oh, I'd like to get your contact information, Corrina.
Okay. I am, as you speak, I am working on just pulling that up, and I'll throw that in the chat. Who was that?
This is CC.
Oh, CC.
I'm very.
Okay.
I can't see the chat. I'm not on the chat. I'm called in.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll tell you, the easiest is my website, because you can email me, you can look at my work. Sorrel showed a picture of that. I'll say it. How about that? Can you copy it down?
Yeah.
All right. It's Corrina, Corrina, Sephora, Sephora .com.
Okay. Thank you.
Cece, if you email me, I email it you back. Corrina, can you type it on the chat anyway?
Yeah, I can.
I'd like to say something, Giovanni and Sorrel and Corrina.
Yeah.
Can I speak now?
Yeah.
This is Rita Williams from Atlanta, and I just saw the piece. Thank you, Sorrel, for showing it, because there's nothing like seeing it, right? And in the center of the picture you showed was a piece that I purchased from Corrina. It's about 9 feet tall, the centerpiece that I call the ocean and the wave. And when Sorrel showed it, I had no idea he was going to show it, but it was with the other pieces. I just, laid my head down and was so moved by it. I bought that piece, and it took me 3 years to get it. And I was all the way going, yes, is it, all of that. And what I got out of looking at it is it felt like a lot. So her work is amazing. Please collect it. But I got such a bargain. I'm like, oh my God, this work belongs to posterity. It belongs in the community. And when people look at it, they'll know about the love we have for them, because it's an outside piece. And Corrina had work at Callan Wall, which is a really famous place in Atlanta that was owned by people who were benefactors of Emory University, where I went to law school. And I took my grandchildren, 3 of them, And what I told them is what I stand in today. I said, you want to see this work? They were like 7 and 8 and 10. And I said, this lady will be in the history books. You will one day study her work and you'll remember that your grandmother brought you to see her work. So thank you on behalf of the universe, Corrina, for the beauty and goodness and joy you bring to the earth.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And thank you, Rita. Yeah. So Sorrel, it was so perfect that you showed the page that you did, because not only did you encapsulate Rita's piece, right, which was the big wave. It's called Sunset Sacred Spiral. I wanted to bring a piece to the Atlanta Beltline. I wanted to bring the ocean to the Atlanta Beltline. You know, my sister and brother lived in Hawaii. And you would go at the end of the day to the ocean to watch the sunset and see if you'd see that magical green flash. And we don't have an ocean in Atlanta. And so I thought I'd make one. Now, something really special about that piece, speaking of community, I worked with teenagers. I created a project where teenagers came to my studio and we worked together on that piece. And there's a film on my website, and that piece is the background. And it's really beautiful what Rita says, that she has that piece and she has it in front of her office, and it's about sharing her love with the world. So that's something really special. I love that you're here, Rita, and I love that you're one of my #1 collectors. And I want to say also, the boat that I talked about, the sculpture that the other woman that wrote me the letter on, that was also pictured in that page. It's the canoe with the fisherman's net. So at any rate, I wanted to say that.
Very good.
I also wanted to just,
Corrina, I wanted to give some space for Levy. Levy also wanted to raise his hand, and he wanted to ask a question. Levy, you want to ask a question?
Please.
Well, Serena, it's not so much of a question. I think you probably answered it. And I just want to say that thank you for sharing what you said when you said that there was a person who was sick, and when they saw your art, and it was in a way healing for them. And you said that it occurred to you, it was open to you that what you had was not just for you, it was for the world, and you couldn't take it back. And as you said that, and I appreciate you saying that, I always say that to people around me. But for some reason, I have not taken it personally for me. And as you spoke it, it's as if you got out of me, you spoke to me, just like I spoke to other people, and it resonated in a different way. More like something that put fire in me. And I appreciate you sharing that, everything that you did. But this right here is my message for the day. Almost like straight out of the Bible. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Beautiful, Corrina. Beautiful. So much beautiful. Thank you, Levy, for pointing that to all of us. Such a purpose-driven, healing human being. Sorrel, do you have a last question for all of us? Or comment?
No, I don't. I find myself on the edge of tears. And just want to say thank you. That's all.
You're welcome.
This is what the Daily Huddle is all about. It is not mine. It's not yours. It belongs to the world. And each day it ends up belonging to someone as beautiful, as talented, and as generous as Corrina, to set us off to have the most beautiful day ever. And not just the most beautiful day. I promise you, Corrina, I shall live a beautiful life out of your sharing with us today. And that's what the Daily Huddle is all about. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Sorrel. Thank you for moving us also as well, Sorrel. I want to say one thing, and then we leave it to you, Corrina, to close say the last words for all of us. One of the things that I got so clear about the world of an artist and the impact and the contribution that artists are for our lives, you know, you brought in the midst of the conversation that we're in, or the social conversation, right? You brought a beautiful sentence that said, beauty will save the world. I think it's your mom who said that, right?
Yeah.
I just got so present to all of the work of the beauty in the world in this Daily Huddle because of you. Thank you for being an artist. And I just wanted to say that. And Corrina, anything you want to say before we finished our Daily Huddle?
Oh, yes. I guess I will reiterate what both of my parents said to me, right? Which you just said, Giovanni, which is beauty will save the world. So whatever that form is for you, right? Whether it's being with people, whether it's anything, right? That you follow your dreams. And then what my father always said growing up was, you can do whatever you want as long as you put your mind to it and you're true to that, no matter what the obstacles. So I give that to all of you. I put a little information in our chat. If you want, you're welcome to take a look at it. And please stay in touch. I was so inspired, I started a conversation myself that starts next week. So if you want, feel free to join us. And again, take care. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you, Corrina. Everybody have a wonderful day.